Hey everyone, today on my channel, we're going to be creating a replacement build for the high school in the High School Years expansion pack for The Sims 4. And as the title said, we are going to be creating Sunnydale from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is definitely one of my favorite shows, and I feel like the high school that was packaged with this game could use a little bit of refurbishment. So yeah, I wanted to create something that potentially has some cross-pack compatibility, unlike High School Years. And so I landed on this occult high school that is very vampire friendly. Also, the name of the town is Copperdale. I mean, I'm sure that that's in reference to Riverdale and not Sunnydale, but Dale is in the name. And I felt like if we're gonna pick a Dale, Sunnydale is the Dale to pick. Quick disclaimer, if I look different throughout this video, it is because I'm irresponsible and I deleted audio from some of the recordings that I took yesterday. So if you see something, no you didn't. Let's get on to the build. All right, so Miss Buffy the Vampire Slayer herself. First of all, if you are a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and that is what has brought you to this video, please comment below and let me know what your favorite episode is. I first saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer because my very first boyfriend really loved the show, and he was adamant that I watched it with him, telling me that I would enjoy it. I never actually watched it as it was premiering on air, and I have been a big fan ever since. There are just so many things about Buffy that are the absolute sweet spot of things that I like. You have this mix of like strange occult oddities, the outcast storyline, a lot of queerness thrown in there, so I love that. I don't know, Buffy is just so camp. It's so camp and so serious at the same time. So first and foremost with this build, I wanted to balance functionality with accuracy. So I wanted this school to really function well in-game and be usable for you if you're interested in this, if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or if you just like the look of this school. I wanted this to be an easy lot for you to play during your gameplay for High School Years, but I also wanted it to, in as many ways as possible, feel like Sunnydale High School. Here's the problem. Sunnydale High School literally was designed to feel like a high school anywhere, everywhere, all at once. And there's not a lot of super specific architectural aspects of the interior of the high school that make it feel, unique in any kind of way, aside from, of course, the library, which, gag, if you had a library that looked like that in your school, oh my gosh. But otherwise, the hallways, the classrooms, the cafeteria, everything looks extremely standard. That being said, the exterior of the building definitely has a very iconic look if you're familiar with the show. And so when I was working on this, I was using reference images from the actual filming location of the exterior shots for the school. But on the Buffy Wikipedia page, there are blueprints of certain rooms and the overall building. So I did my best to blend what the actual filming location of this school looks like with the understanding we have of the fictional spaces that this world kind of creates, like the library. So yeah, while I was spending time on the Buffy Wikipedia page, there were a few key sets that they mentioned inside the school that I wanted to make sure were included in this build. First and foremost, obviously, library, most frequent hotspot for our Scooby Gang. There is the pool and the very nefarious steam room. There's Miss Jenny's computer lab, break my heart. The cafeteria, there's a student lounge, and then, of course, the principal's office and an auditorium. So I wanted to make sure, and the quad, which I ended up finding out is the sort of courtyard in the middle of the school. That's apparently called the quad. So I wanted to make sure to include all of the major sets from the show, kind of within the confines of this weird U-shaped building that the show was filmed in. So the first place we're starting in is the library. And at a certain point in this build, you're going to see that I'm kind of skipping around and going back around all the rooms that I've already touched, because my initial goal was for this build to only be High School Years and the Vampire Game Pack. I really wanted to limit the number of packs that I was using, and listen, I'm a nerd. One of the things that I love to do in The Sims is recreate builds. If you haven't noticed by my previous uploads, I love to recreate builds from video games and movies and shows and things like that I like. And it was really hard for me to forgo accuracy in trying to use, a limited number of packs. So at a certain point, I just decide I want this to be as accurate as I can make it. And so I didn't limit myself in the number of packs. If you're interested in downloading this, it's easier, of course, when there are less packs involved. But I really wanted this to be as accurate as it could be. So yeah, in the library, famously octagonal library with very moody lighting all the time and one kind of like sunshine beam shining through. So we have our octagonal library, our main place for the Scooby Gang to hang out. And then I also wanted to make sure to include Oz's cage, which apparently was just meant for book returns, but I wanted to include Oz's cage in here. And then I also sneak around like some strands of garlic. I'm not sure if I do that now or later, but I sneak some strands of garlic kind of all around the library for obvious reasons. And I will also say that there is a particular set below the library that we'll see a little bit more of later. I won't mention now. Oh, and also, so this lot, I gave this lot the lot trait from the Vampires pack, which I don't think it's called Vampire Hangout, but whatever the vampire lot trait is, I used that here. And I'll say through gameplay, I spent about 2 days on this lot, just kind of testing it out, making sure everything worked. And I didn't notice any vampires show up. I'm not sure if it's because it's a school and literally no townies populate here at night, or if I just don't have any vampire teenagers yet. I don't know. But I'm not totally sure if that lot trait is compatible with high schools. But yeah, if you do download this lot and find out, let me know in the comments. I would love to know. So yeah, now we're working on the auditorium. I don't really think a lot happened in this space, and obviously it's not super functional for high school gameplay. I did include the podium and the microphone here that come with the pack. And all of these chairs are accessible as well, should you want to take some photographs or something here. But I think the episode with the talent show is super iconic. And so I really wanted to make sure to include an auditorium space. And then I also have a little sound booth up there too on the second floor, which actually leads me to a point. This lot has 3 classrooms. There are 2 functional classrooms, and then there's one that is the computer lab, Miss Jenny's computer lab. And that's not necessarily functional, but there are a ton of computers there. That being said, there is a ton of space on the second floor of this build if you want to expand. I thought about adding additional classrooms. I figured that this was enough. I didn't want to add too many items to this build overall. But what I did is all the additional space on the second floor, I blacked out. I used like black flooring and wallpaper, and I also put blinds on the windows just so it didn't really disrupt gameplay. But I did want to make sure that they were easily accessible in case you wanted to download this and add anything to your school specifically. So there are access points to the second floor in multiple areas of the build. And really all you would have to do to expand is put up some walls and add doors. And then going back to the auditorium, it has a little sound booth at the top on the second floor, which is accessible from the quad. And then I did I did set the stage with a puppet show object. I'm pretty sure it's from like the toddler stuff pack. So maybe not necessarily exactly for teens, but it is a nice little nod to the talent show episode if you are familiar. So I did want to put that up there. You can feel free to delete it if you think it's strange, but I do think it adds to the oddity of Sunnydale High just in general. So when I was working on this build, I wanted to prioritize 2 things. I wanted to prioritize functionality and, of course, aesthetics. So from a functionality standpoint, I think one of the bigger criticisms of the school that's packaged with this expansion pack is that it's really big. And not in terms of its size, but just in terms of the amount of space from one area to the next. And it takes him a long time to move around. So when I was kind of laying this out and figuring out where things could fit, I put, the primary classroom, the principal's office, the cafeteria, bathrooms, and lockers all really close to one another. So your sim should have a pretty easy time if you want to add this to your game. Your sim should have a pretty easy time navigating around the school, not being late to class, yada, yada, yada. And then the other piece is, as with many EA builds, there are many limitations and things like that they are bound by when they ship out these games. So, the school's a little empty. The school feels a little bit empty. Hallways and things like that, like I mentioned earlier, are really generic feeling, but there's a ton of school spirit stuff around. There are posters and streamers and balloons and this and that and that. Sunnydale High is a very prideful school, that is for sure. So I really did my best to kind of add celebratory items and posters and information boards and things like that kind of all around the build. I wanted this to feel as vibrant and lively and as school spirity as the Sunnydale of Buffy the Vampire feels as well. I made use primarily of high school years and Discover University as well One thing I did do though is I really tried not to use the same posters and kind of like wall decorations too much throughout the school. I didn't want it to feel repetitive, so I tried to, and I think I accomplished this. I tried to limit myself to only using posters a max of 2 times because I just didn't want it to feel like there was no differentiation between the school. And then here we are working on the principal's office. This is, the office of principal A, B, C, D, E, F. whomever the principal is at the time. But I think this came out pretty cool. There's really nothing special about the principal's office, but from what I was able to find, it ended up looking very similar to how it looks in the show. Oh, yes, and I forgot to mention this. Okay, so we also, of the areas that I was trying to include, we do have this other incredibly iconic, but also incredibly controversial set from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that is the Watchtower. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this. This was a pretty wild episode and caused a lot of controversy. If you are unfamiliar, I would recommend checking out the episode called Earshot. But we have the Watchtower, so the Watchtower is there. And then here we're just doing some classroom decorations. So what I did, because I was watching a few other people play this before the pack came out, and I noticed that desks for teachers can also be utilized by students, and to prevent that, what I did was I included teacher desks, but I never locked a chair to them. So hopefully that prevents students from trying to sit in the teacher's chair, and also hopefully it prevents the principal from going to one of the teacher's desks in the classrooms. So there are desks in each classroom for teachers, but the chairs are kind of just like sitting off grid next to them. I feel like we got a good number of items with this pack to kind of dress up the school, but they focus so heavily on bedrooms. So, in terms of the type of content we got to decorate our schools, it just feels pretty uniform, no pun intended. I don't know. It just kind of, it's hard to differentiate one class from another. So one of them is kind of generic. The other one really leaned into a science kind of vibe. I feel like a lot of the posters seem to be related to climate change and the periodic table and things like that. So did a science room. One thing that, oh my gosh, I had the most difficult time doing this. I wanted to include that elements board thing in the classroom, but with all the elements actually in it. And I was having the hardest time because this is a public lot. If I went into the debug menu and added the elements onto the lot and then had my sim go to the school, I wasn't able to collect them because they weren't my property. So then I took my sim home. I put all the objects out in my home, filled the board, put the board in my inventory, went back to the public lot, and I realized that when you build with your sim on a public lot, you can't pull from your personal inventory. I was like, damn it. Could do a combination of both. Pro tip, if you're ever interested in doing that, you have to put the objects in your inventory, and if you want to put them on the board, you have to drag them out of your inventory during gameplay and slide them onto the board that's already on the lot. It's such a pain. Okay, so now we're doing a little bit of remodeling on the exterior. One of the things that I found kind of late in this build was a blueprint for how the library was supposed to look. So apparently the library is supposed to have a huge octagonal glass roof, like a peaked glass roof, which goes over, the entire room. I don't really understand that because the library is always super dark and has, that streaming light from the small half moon window in there. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of curious. But I did my best to incorporate it here somehow. I think in hindsight, I probably could have just gotten rid of the small building that's next to it and just made the whole thing an octagon. But I don't know. I was trying to keep true to the actual building, like the real life building, while also blending the fictional world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ooh, and then here we are. We are below the library to a very famous location in Buffyverse. We're in the Hellmouth. So I really did my best here. I tried to be as, realistic to the show as possible. This is not actually in the Hellmouth itself, but this is meant to look like the kind of big door that Buffy and all her potential Slayer friends have to open to get into the Hellmouth. So this is kind of like the first stage. And, the game is really not built to make things like this. I used a ton of debug rocks, really oversized, to make it feel very cavernous. I also used that object, that tunnel from the Vampires pack. Unfortunately, it's not functional. I thought it might be functional if I place it. It wasn't. But I feel like it's cool just from a story standpoint that like that's how vampires have actually been getting into the school this entire time. I also used platforms to make levels and stuff down there just so it felt, a little bit more than a room in a basement in The Sims 4. And it is all walkable. I did test this area. Everything is walkable. Everything is accessible. And in like a minute or so, we're going to check out on the tour how, if you're interested in visiting the Hellmouth for yourself, you can access it from Sunnydale. So yeah, here's the exterior of the build. Oh my gosh, I'm really happy with how this came out. Oh, and there is my sim self. I'm doing a little bit of cheerleading. Very nice. I did include a cheer mat in the quad, in the small courtyard in the center of the school. I figured, again, it's just easier for gameplay rather than going back to the football field if you need to do some cheerleading practice. All right, we're going into Sunnydale High. Okay, here we are. This is the inside of the school. We got this huge double high ceiling, lots of school spirit stuff on the walls. So here is the library. Look at this. Oh my gosh. I think this looks so much like the library in the show. Of all the rooms that I worked on, this is the one that I really wanted to feel like what it feels like on the set of the show. And it's also the place that has the most, distinguishable characteristics, the most character to it. So yeah, this is the library. I didn't have room to put Giles' full office, but I did put the little room behind a hidden bookshelf there. It has some kind of like artifacts and occult items. And there is the library looking so good. And then as we go outside, across the hall, here's a little space that I don't think I've talked about at all. We have some vending machines, but on the top, here's where I included that sort of like student lounge hangout area. I know in my memory, I know that I remember what this looks like, but I could not find the actual episodes that this lounge was featured in. So I just kind of wung it here. There's no reference to the show aside from the fact that there's a student lounge in Sunnydale High and there's a student lounge in this Sunnydale High recreation. I just don't think that they look like one another. Sorry. But yes, so across from the student lounge, we're going to go into the principal's office. I did add a little reception area. I just felt like it was more realistic and took up the space nicely. But yeah, here's the principal's office. Nothing super special about this because it's not really special in the show, but I do really think it feels like how the show feels. And then I also put a little faculty-only bathroom in here for the principal. And then here's our first classroom. So this is like a science-y classroom. I really spent a lot of time on this one. This one I think looks better than the others. But here's a little science classroom. And then if we continue down this hallway, we're actually going to head over to the pool, which I did not include at all in the speed build. But we're going to check out the pool and the very, very nefarious steam room. Just taking a look on the outside. You have some like gym equipment, some football, soccer equipment, and a basketball court. And then here is the pool. Wow. I feel like this came out really cool. And lots of things happen in this pool in the show. So at the bottom, we do have this really big crag from Get to Work. And then I also added the mysterious light object in the middle of the pool, just so there's like some additional kind of reaction that happens in there. So if you want to explore and check that out, feel free. And then above the pool, we do have a small room in the back, just for gym equipment. Nothing special here. I just thought that this was more of a functionality thing. If you have a sim that has a fitness aspiration, it'd probably be pretty convenient. You can just come to school and do that before school or after. So yeah, just some standard gym equipment up here. And then as we go to the back, we have a very straightforward locker room. So here's our little locker room. A shower, and then in the back is the steam room using the sauna from Spa Day. So yeah, here's our steam room. I would not recommend checking that out if I were you. I would completely steer clear unless you want to be a fish person. All right, and then we're going to go back into the school. Here we are in the central hallway again. And I think we're going to take a trip into, here is the central hall bathroom. Pretty standard, but if we go to this last stall here, you see a little bit of graffiti and then a very curious door. Perhaps we will come back to that later. So outside the bathroom, we are exiting the central hallway, and here's the quad. Tons of memories of filming locations and things like that out there. And then we're going to go into the cafeteria. Again, here, really kind of leaning into what The Sims is capable of, not necessarily completely referencing Sunnydale High's cafeteria, but yeah, here's our cafeteria. I think it feels, really communal and nice. And then we also have a bathroom that's attached to this cafeteria as well. I just feel like that would be more convenient, especially if your sim is using the second classroom, which is on the other side here. But right next to the cafeteria is our auditorium. And here you can see the auditorium stage is set for the talent show. I feel like this came out really cool. We got some like massive, double high curtains and things like that. And we're using a ton of actually the prom decorations. And some of the either that's seasons or part of the free holiday update. But if you remember the actual talent show episode, there's a lot of like twinkling stars and things like that on stage. So I felt like all that stuff worked really well. And then as we go back out to the quad and continue walking down this outdoor hallway, we get to our second functional classroom. Really like nothing special here, just wanted to make sure it felt like a real classroom. It's a little rough around the edges. It's got weird shelves and storage solutions everywhere. And then here's Miss Jenny's computer room. Again, nothing too big here, but yeah, there it is. There is Miss Jenny's computer room with the Nyan cat on the wall. I love that poster. Yeah, and then as we go out here too, just check out the quad one more time. From this corner, you can see the watchtower really well. So we'll actually check out the watchtower in a second too, but here's the quad, and there's a bunch of cheerleading equipment. And then just for a little bit more realism, on the side of the building, I put a little area where maybe cheerleading tryout signups happen or something like that. And then, yeah, let's go back to that bathroom, huh? On the second hallway, we're going to take a look. So this is totally optional. These sections are blocked off to your Sims. When you download this build, if you would like to allow them access, you can remove that third bathroom stall. But when you enter there, we have two options to go up and down. So first we'll go up to the watchtower. And this is actually 2 stories up. And the only thing in the watchtower is a ray gun. Very peculiar. I don't know. But yeah, that's the watchtower. I'm not really going to say anything more about that. And then as we go down to the basement, we see the final Hellmouth. Here it is. Here's the Hellmouth. One thing I wish about The Sims 4 is that we could please let us paint ceilings. I don't care if it's using the same. Let us paint ceilings with wallpaper. Just give us a color. It doesn't even need to be textures. Just let us paint ceilings. They're so rough. Or floor tiles. Let us put floor tiles on ceilings. That would be great. And again, this is all completely walkable. So if you want to come check this out and explore for yourself, you can. And then, yeah, as you zoom out, we have a little surprise. We have a little surprise behind the Hellmouth door. So I would say, enter at your own risk and, look out. So yes, that's it. That's Sunnydale High. This is my take on Sunnydale High. I loved working on this. Like I said, one of my favorite things to do always, ever since I played The Sims as a kid, one of my favorite things to do is recreate things from my favorite movies and shows and video games and all that kind of stuff. So this was really cool to spend a lot of time revisiting Buffy, which I have not seen in years at this point. It's been a very long time. So if you would like to download this build, it's available on the gallery. You can find me on the gallery by the same username I am here, so it's just patrickcreates. If you like this video and you would like to see more recreations from movies, TV, media, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, please feel free to subscribe because I guarantee you I will continue to do this. If you've not seen any of my previous videos, I have so far made a Barbie dream house. I've made a cheesecake factory, which is like, okay. But I will link them at the end of the video for you to check out if you would like to do so. And if you like this video, please give it a like. I'm just getting started on my channel and it is very, very helpful and I would very much appreciate it. So otherwise, that is all I have for today. And until next time, y'all.